Today we have a Nissan Kicks to review. As always, I'm going to be taking you all around the vehicle, inside the vehicle, carrying the vehicle for a drive, and telling you all what I like and don't like along the way. Starting with the exterior, you have what Nissan is calling their V-motion grille, and you can see why they call it a V-motion grille. It has a V shape to the front here. I really like how the headlights look as though they are seamlessly integrated into this V coming down here. Now they are not. The whole V don't light up, but it would be cool if it did. Now the headlights and daytime running lights are all LEDs, and it continues with Nissan's latest trend of having the 4 individual segments in the headlights. It looks cool on the Nissan Note, and it looks cool over here on the Nissan Kicks as well. Now below the headlights you have your fog lights and you have your parking sensors. Now I like the fact that they put the parking sensor recessed in a way, and it's not just on the flat part of the bumper. This way, if you do accidentally bump into something while parking, you won't misalign your entire parking system because it's recessed. Or even if you have kids, they're playing football, one kicks a ball, the ball hits the parking sensor and pushes it into the bumper. I've seen it happen, but it can't happen here because it's recessed to the front. Now the Nissan Kicks is supposed to be a crossover. So what are its dimensions? It's 14 feet long, 5 feet 3 inches high, 5 feet 9 inches wide, and it has a ground clearance of 8.2 inches. In fact, it's smaller than a Hyundai Creta, noticeably so. The Hyundai Creta looks noticeably bigger than it. And when it comes to the dimensions on paper at least, it's smaller, slightly so, than the Suzuki S-Cross, even though because of the design of the S-Cross looks longer than it. Because the Nissan Kicks is slightly higher, it has a kind of high, stubby look, it looks shorter. But that's only belongs to the design. On paper, they are practically the same size on the outside. In probably half of an inch here, half of a foot there, but it's practically the same thing when it comes to design on the outside. So it's not really a big vehicle. And many people seeing it up close for the first time would wonder to themselves, well, what's the difference between this and the Note? They are practically almost the same in terms of length, in terms of height. But there are a few differences. I guess this is what the crossover market is aiming towards. Now at the rear here, you can see there's a rear wiper, has a third brake light to the top there. There's a small spoiler. Above the spoiler, you have your shark fin antenna. Down below, you have a type of a diffuser. I guess they were going for a kind of sporty look, but when you look at it from this angle, you can see the ground clearance. And I think this is one of the biggest differences between these crossovers and normal sedans. It has more ground clearance, so you're definitely not going to scrape your bumper coming out of the random driveway or reversing into the random driveway. It has ground clearance. If ground clearance is your thing, yeah, it's right up your alley. On the roof, you have your mounting points. Let's say you have a bike rack, you have multiple bikes, you can put one on the roof, one on the rear, and you can probably even fit one inside the vehicle if you fold the rear seats down. So whatever you want to put on top there, once you have the rack for it, the mounting points are already there. So all you have to do, mount your stuff and get on the move. When it comes to trunk space, I won't say it's large, but I also won't say it's small. In terms of space, you have 35.4 inches in length, 38.3 inches in width, and 31.6 inches in height. Now this is adequate for everyday shopping, grocery bags, market bags, you're going to the airport with luggage. But if you want to fit longer items at the rear, and it has to be longer, it can't be taller, longer items, then you have to fold the rear seats down. Now this is easy to do. You just pull this lever up and you pull the seat forward. The seats aren't too heavy, so you can even do it one-handed like I'm doing it here. You have to fold the seat belts around because sometimes the seat belts get caught on the seats. And that's it. This is the 6-day side. As you all know, rear seats are divided into 6-day, 4-day. So this is the 6-day side. The 4-day side is still up, but the same applies to the other side. You pull the lever up, push the seat forward, and just like that you have more space. Now don't worry about this separator here. It can come out quite easily. It just hooks in, and it also fits flat in the trunk there, so you can fit it flat and put whatever items you have to put on top of it. Just in case you have nowhere else to store it at the point in time, you can store it in the trunk itself. And this is what it looks like with the seats folded down. Or the seats don't fold down flat, but I don't think that that's really an issue in most case scenarios, because after all, goods don't care if it's flat or not unless you're transporting liquids that are uncovered, in which case you have other problems. Now at the rear of the seats, you can see that there are anchor points. It's easy to get to. You just lift up the flap and you can see the anchor point below. When not in use, you just cover it back and it fits seamlessly at the rear here. You don't even know those anchor points are at the rear here until you need them. And when you're done, you just lift the seat back up and put them back into place. Like I said, they aren't too heavy. Anybody can do it, and it's a one-handed job. Just lift it up, it locks into place, you move the seat belt. Sometimes the seat belt gets caught to the back here, but you move the seat belt, put it back to the front so it can be usable, and that's it. Now, as you can see, the car battery is located at the rear of the vehicle, in the trunk, in the space that would have otherwise been for the spare tire. So you already know that there's no spare tire in the Nissan Kicks, and I know most people aren't a fan of that no tire thing in the back here, but that is the way the automotive world is going. Every ounce of weight saving counts, and if they can remove the spare tire and replace it with a kind of fix your tire, then that's what they're gonna do. But when not in use, you put this mat back down and you would never know that there's no spare tire below there. Stepping into the Nissan Kicks, it looks okay. You know, it gets the job done. It's one of those vehicles that gets the job done. There's nothing too flashy, nothing too fancy. It gets the job done. But when you look at the door panels, this is where you really see that it is an economy car. It's a car that was made for economy, not flash. And no more so than on the door panel. It's one solid piece of hard plastic. For example, everything that you can see and touch is hard plastic. The only redeeming factor has to be the little part there where your elbow goes that has a slight soft touch material to it. It's the same material that the seats are made out of. You put your hand there and it feels nice and soft. Everywhere else, just hard plastic. Now, I always have to say it. It's durable, but it's not comfortable if you are into the poking around and scratching around, which most people aren't really into anyway. Now, at the rear, there are no rear AC vents. However, you do get a power outlet, which is USB, and you do get 3 indication lights for who is wearing and who is not wearing the seat belts. Now, I'm not sure what is the practical purpose of those 3 lights, because it's not like the driver is the parent and the parent can see these 3 lights from the front seat and tell the person or the child, put your seatbelt on. It's for the rear passengers. And I think if you are at the rear, you would know if you have your seatbelt on or not. But anyway, there's a rear pocket on both sides of the vehicle. Passenger and driver side has a rear pocket. Now, with the front driver seat pushed all the way back and slightly reclined, this is the seating room you have at the rear here. I am 5'9", on a good day, 5'8" on most days, and this is the amount of seating room I have here. If you are slightly on the taller side, 6 foot, the person in front may have to push their seat forward unless you want to be cooped up. But as you can see, my knees can rock freely, so there is enough room for you in the back here. Now, if I were to go around, as you can see, the illumination light is lighting up, letting me know that my seat belts are off, because I need the light to let me know that. But if I were to come across here, there is enough room for 3 persons. Now, I'm a fat person. I'm literally fat. I'm like 250 pounds. So if you're smaller, a bit on the smaller side, you can't fit 3 persons in the back here comfortably. But 3 of me, yeah, it'll be a stretch. We'll be cooped up in the back here. It's good for a short journey, but I won't drive from Port of Spain to Mayaro with 3 of me in the back here. That's going to lead to some problems. But again, as you can see, I moved from the right hand side to the middle, and the illumination light popped up to let me know again that my seatbelt isn't on. Again, I don't know what the purpose of these lights are, because obviously I know my seatbelts are off. At the rear here, you have your handles in case the driver is driving like a maniac. You have something to grip on too. And you know, surprisingly, this vehicle has 4. Most times, the driver has none, but the Nissan Kicks has 4. So sometimes even the driver and all, the driver's driving scares himself, so he has to hold on. Unfortunately, there are no rear LEDs. I mean, you can put it in easily, I'm sure, but yeah, I like to see the vehicle come with the LEDs out of the box. Aside from the airbags to the front, you also have side airbags as well. So just in case you got side swiped from a vehicle that's braking a red light, you do have airbags on both sides of the vehicle. Now, before I move on to the front, I must commend these seats, both front and rear. They have this black and blue contrast, and like I said before, it's a type of cloth in the middle with a type of leather feeling material around it, and there's blue stitching. It really looks nice. Look at the blue stitching there, you can see it. It looks nice, it's soft, it's comfortable. As you can see, I'm squeezing it here just to show you how soft and squishy it is. I really love the seats in this vehicle. Now, moving to the front, there is a slight bump that you notice when you put the passenger seat all the way back, because the battery that powers the car sits below the front seats. So there is a slight bump there, but you can only recognize that if you are looking, or if the seat is all the way back and you try to push your foot back, you will feel that there's a slight bump right there. But with the passenger seat all the way back, I can put my feet literally straight. My knees aren't even bent if I put my foot straight. So you can recline the seat and have your foot straight and just sleep or just take a long drive. It's really comfortable. Unfortunately, that is contrasted with more hard plastic. Below all of that, you have a 12-volt power outlet, and to the right of the outlet, you have a USB power outlet as well. Now, you know it's a power outlet and not an input because it has a power sign next to it. So that is used to charge your phone, tablet, or whatever other USB device you have in your vehicle. There's a small pocket below that. To the top of that, you have your AC control. It's single zone, not dual zone, which means if you adjust the temperature, it's going to change the temperature for the entire car. There's no individual zoning here. Next, you have heated seats, driver and passenger. Now, people think heated seats in the Caribbean is a novelty, but if you have a bad back or you're just stressed, those heated seats actually makes your back feel better. The steering wheel is also heated, just in case you need it. Now, I'm not sure if you would really need that down here. Maybe you have arthritis or pain in your joints. It may help on a long drive. Below all of this, you have your normal start-stop button, which is the blue button to your right. To the left of that, in the middle, you have the EV button, which controls the EV feature of the vehicle. And to the left of that, all the way to the left, you have your drive mode. So this is essentially Eco, Sport, Comfort. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. You press it and you can change whatever mode you are in. Below that, you have your gear selector. Now, I'm not a fan of this gear selector. It feels like a toy. It reminds me of the Aqua's gear selector. It has one position, which is the one it's currently in. That's its resting position. And to do anything, you have to pull to the right and push up for reverse or pull down for drive. Parking is a separate button. It's park by wire, if you want to call it that. You push the button and it will activate the parking mechanism inside the transmission. Below that, you have your cup holder. You can have it separated like that or pull this out and have more space to put maybe a phone lay flat or something. And to the right of that, you have two other buttons. The first one on top, the biggest one, is your parking brake. This is essentially what most cars will have as your foot brake or maybe a hand brake. This is electronic, so it has a giant P there. Below that, you have your auto hold. This will keep the vehicle in one position. If you are driving up a hill, you take your foot off the gas momentarily, the vehicle won't roll back. When it comes to the AC vents, I'm actually loving these rounded AC vents. Aside from them being different, you can precisely direct the air anywhere you want it. To the left, but down. To the right, but up. Halfway to the corner, 90 degrees to the right. It's different from the normal AC vents we have, even though you can do almost the same thing with the normal ones, which this vehicle does have to the center. I love the roundedness of it. The round ones, you can actually put it precise. Now, when it comes to the interior lighting, again, I will say it does not come with LEDs, even though it's not a difficult thing to swap it out for LEDs. I just prefer when a vehicle comes with LEDs out of the box. I'm not sure why it doesn't come with LEDs, but it doesn't. There's this SOS switch here, which has a kind of fighter pilot theme to it. You know, you had to push this first before you can actually push the SOS button. Now, I'm not 100% sure as to what its purpose is, but I'm sure it doesn't work down here because we don't have anything like that. When it comes to the rearview mirror can either be a normal glass rearview mirror, or you can flick it up and it turns into a monitor where you can actually see the cameras, because this vehicle does have 360 cameras. Now, the flickering that you are seeing there only happens on camera. It does not happen if you are looking at the mirror in person. Now, you have three views. To your furthest right, you have your normal view. If you look at it, you'll just see straight back. To the middle, you have your backup camera, which is straight back but on camera. And to the left of that, you have either your 360 view or your side view. So you have options. You can either have a hybrid of digital and old school reflective glass, or you can have it all reflective glass. Next, I forgot to mention that there is a center console, what some call the center box or whatever you want to call it, and there is soft touch material on top here, so there is storage space in the center here. There's also a glove box in the front passenger section, and it's relatively big. It's not too big, but it's relatively big. Now, the original head unit for the vehicle came in Japanese, so it was swapped out for an Android head unit, which I think looks better because the screen is bigger. Now, I won't go too in depth into this because most people know what Android is, and if you have an Android phone, it's the exact same thing but on a bigger screen. One thing I thought that Nissan should have done better with is the instrument cluster, because while on the Nissan Note you have an all digital instrument cluster, and while both of them are the exact same steering wheel, same button layout, same features, everything, on the Nissan Kicks, you have this hybrid of digital on the left but analog on the right. Now, in isolation, this would have been perfectly okay. But when you compare it to the Nissan Note's all-digital display, yeah, this kind of looks dated. Now, let's take the Nissan Kicks out on the road and see how it drives. Now, before we do that, let's take a look under the hood. This is what the engine sounds like when it's on and just idling. As you all know, this is the Nissan e-Power technology. What the e-Power technology is essentially you have an electric vehicle. It's all electric. But rather than having to plug the electric vehicle in to recharge, The engine is what turns the generator, which recharges the battery as you drive. And because of this, you get electric vehicle type acceleration from a vehicle that actually has a gas engine on board. You step on it and you get that torque instantly. It just shoots off. Now 0 to 100 was done in about 10.3, 10.4 seconds there, even though it could have been a mid-9, but there was some wheel spin, so traction control had to kick in there and that kind of slowed down the progress. But even when you are going at speed and you want to accelerate, let's say from 60 or 80 to 100, it does so effortlessly. Now, even though the vehicle does accelerate like an electric car, I think it has been artificially limited by the manufacturer. This could be either because it's scared towards the masses and to prevent them from getting themselves into trouble, they have artificially limited its acceleration because it does feel like it's hesitating a bit. Now, it's not noticeable to the average person, but to me, I feel like there's nothing mechanically wrong why it shouldn't be able to accelerate faster aside from software limitations. Either that or for reliability concerns, they limited the amount of torque the motor can produce at any one point in time. This is not to say the vehicle doesn't drive good, it drives really well. It's just that I think that there was more there that is being kept behind the scenes. But that wouldn't be your concern if you drive the vehicle like a normal person. Like you're just driving it like I'm doing here. It drives really well. You have the torque in case you need to get out of problems. You have the power. You have the acceleration. You have the EV silence, because if you're not revving it or flooring it, the engine is just in the back there almost at idle. Now when it comes to the safety tech, the Nissan Kicks does have the safety tech. For example, it has forward collision avoidance if you are driving too close to a vehicle, and this is very clever. It uses the sonar, which is located inside the Nissan emblem. So when you look at the Nissan emblem, you're actually looking at the sensor for the front there. That is clever thinking. But anyway, so it uses that sensor to not look at the vehicle in front of you, but it uses that sensor to look at the vehicle in front of the vehicle that is in front of you, and is able to detect if that vehicle stops suddenly, then obviously the vehicle in front of you will stop suddenly, so you will have to stop suddenly, and it warns you beforehand via an audible sound, beep beep, or a visual cue in your dashboard that you have to step on your brake. Now, while it does have lane keeper assist, in my testing, I found it to be less intrusive than the lane keeper assist found in the Nissan Note. The Nissan Note will actually turn the steering wheel to bring you back in lane. This one, it vibrates the steering wheel and it makes a beep sound, so you actually feel the steering wheel vibrating, but it slightly nudges you back into lane. It doesn't pull you back into lane as violently as the Nissan Note does. Now, all of this is dependent on there being white lines in the road. The vehicle needs white lines to know where the lane ends and where it begins. So if you're on a road with no white lines, this feature really wouldn't work. The Nissan Kicks also has the one pedal driving feature found in all Nissan e-Power vehicles, where you take your foot off the accelerator pedal and the vehicle slows down as if you are mashing the brake. You seldom ever have to use the brake in normal driving conditions unless it's an emergency. Then you slam on the brake. And the clever thing is that while you are slowing down without mashing the brake pedal, the brake lights at the rear of the vehicle turn on to let people at the rear of you know that you are slowing down. So it's not a case of you're slowing down and they are not realizing it. They are seeing the brake light activating the same way as if you are actually mashing the brake. So you're not only sending power back into the battery, you're also saving on brake pads in the long run. Now getting to this instrument cluster, like I said, it's half digital, half analog. And while I would prefer to have an all digital display like in the Nissan Note, this one actually works still. You can see all your relevant information at a glance. As you can see, I just took off cruise control. I'm going to reactivate it here. You can set how far you want the collision avoidance to work. Everything just works really well. So if you're in the market for a small crossover type SUV, give the Nissan Kicks a look. You may like it, you may not like it, but it wouldn't hurt to give it a look.